Alright, here's the second one of Papa. Going to tell a story about how he survived at 93 years old on a fall at his house, and I will show some before and after pictures while we doctored this. And I should say that viewer discretion is advised because there is going to be some explicit content in this video. So if you do not want to see explicit content, blood, gore, and such, then stop watching now and enjoy the story. Go ahead, Papa. Go ahead, Papa.
Well, I started out the back door on the porch there, and all of a sudden my leg got I got hurt with a cow about a couple of years ago. Give away again. It's give away 4 or 5 times, and I broke my ribs one time and ended up in the hospital, and it took 6 weeks for them to heal. And this time, when I started down, I grabbed a hold of a 4x4, and my hand slid down it, and it split my arm wide open, and I went down and hit my
nose,
hip on the floor,
ear,
and rolled. And I don't know, I rolled 2 or 3 times, and when I come to, I was down on the steps on the bottom round, and I couldn't get back up there to the porch, and I finally, my one leg, I could push with it and slide back up the concrete steps till I got up there to the wooden floor, and I laid my head down on the wooden floor and my arm up straight, and it was bleeding, and I said, Lord, I know that people has cut their arms and committed suicide and bled to death, and I said, if I can't get this blood stopped, I'm gonna bleed to death. So I asked the Lord to stop the bleeding in my arm, and He did. Then Edward come over there and got a couple pieces of cotton sheets and put around it. Then I just happened to know that at church one day, leaving church, I reached into my wheel of my cart, and I said, the preacher was there, and I said, I got a roll of elastic here, and he said, what you got that for? And I said, one day I might need it. So Edward didn't have nothing to wrap it with, and I happened to think of that, and I got that out there and gave it to him, and he started pulling that cotton and pulling out the wound together and wrapping it up. And when he got through, there wasn't no blood coming out of it. It stopped all of the blood from coming out, but it was a nasty cut, and it's getting better all the time.
Don't touch it. This is about a month later. I've been using Xeroform strips and completely healing this back. They had to cut out the skin that was here. This is a scarring across here. This was just meat last time I had cleaned this. So this is the final time cleaning this. I'm going to put one final piece of Xeroform on here, just a small piece for this right here after I clean it. And yeah, it's almost completely healed now.
You need to cover it and slap up with that stuff.
No, because that's healed all back there. The only place that's not healed is right here. Go ahead and tell the rest of your story. This is Skin Integrity Wound Cleanser. It gently cleanses wounds. I've been using this. I'll show y'all how to clean a wound. A lot of people want to discredit me because they think I'm this, that, or the other, which I know more shit than most doctors because I've been dealing with this shit my entire life.
Don't be cussing with that thing.
I said viewer discretion is advised. My channel is for adults only. I can say what I want on here.
Well, go ahead.
So continue your story. Continue your story, Pop.
Well, after Edward come and wound it up, there's a lady that lives there that does cooking and cleaning for me. She's been there 11 years in my house with us before my wife died. My wife got her over there, and she was a real friend of my wife, and she's a black lady. But she'd go in there, and my wife was bedridden, and she would lay with her in bed and talk to her for hours at a time and give her company. And she was a blessing to our family. And so I told her to call the ambulance. And instead of calling the ambulance, she called Edward first, and he got over there and he wound it up. Then the ambulance finally got there. They had Thomasville, I don't know, the biggest town it is, don't even have an ambulance service in Thomasville. And they had to bring an ambulance out of Tuscaloosa down here to take me to the hospital. Then after I got to the hospital there in Thomasville, they seen the picture that Edward had, and that doctor looked at it, and he'd walk up over to me and shake his head, and he said, I need some help, I need some help. And he wouldn't attempt to sew it up or nothing. And finally they called Mobile, was going to send me down there to the hospital because my hip got hurt too bad. And the hospitals in Mobile was all filled up. 3 of them didn't have a room, and they called Tuscaloosa up there, and they had 1 room, and they had to send an ambulance all the way from Tuscaloosa down there to Thomasville to get me and take me up there. Well, when they got, I laid it happened about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was right at 9 o'clock the next day before they ever took the wrapping off my arm and looked at it.
Put the tape over top of a wrap like this on the skin so this does not slide up and down, and do it here so it don't slide up and down. When you get dressed at a hospital, they will not put it on your skin here and there, and it'll just slip on and off, and that's not good. So that's an improvement that I do that they do not. Continue, Pop.
So after they started, the doctor come there and started about 9:30, unwrapped it, and they put me to sleep, and I don't know what they did then, and all of a sudden I found myself, they tell me they started sewing it up, and the heart monitor, my heart dropped beats from 61 to 31 in just a few minutes, and they called an ambulance and sent me to another hospital that did nothing but operate on it. And they sent me over there, and when I got there, the heart doctor was a lady, and she must have knew what she was doing, because she didn't have to give me no anesthetic to put me to sleep. I was already asleep. I didn't even know nothing about it. And but after I come to, I seen where she had cut me down there in the thigh and run a tube up the vein to my heart. And when I had a heart attack 7, 8 years ago, the doctor told me, he said, we put a bloom in one side and a stent in the other side, and he said that bloom won't last but about 7 years. Well, it'd been right at 9 years since he did it, and that bloom must have collapsed, because when she went up in there and she pulled that bloom out, and my heart started picking up a few. And I think she must have put another bloom in there. I don't know what they did, but anyhow, my heart jumped from 31. It dropped all the way down to 31 licks per minute, and they all of a sudden it jumped up to 41. I said, "Man alive, I'm gonna live," you know, and. I don't know who it was, but somebody asked me while I was out, do you want to live? Do you want to live? Do you want to live? And I don't know if it was my grandson or the Lord said that. And I said, Lord, yes, I want to live. So I said, I ain't finished my work here on earth yet. So
It's done. This is done. You can keep talking.
What's that?
I'm done with you now. You can keep talking.
Okay. So after they got that heart going, it went up to 61, and one of the head nurses told me, said that was perfect, 61, from 31 to 61, and it's been staying right on 61 for the last 2 weeks. So I guess I'm on the roll for another 7 years. I hope so.
That's what I'm talking about.
Huh?
That's what I'm talking about.
So everything's going good. I feel good. I never did. I hadn't been sick hardly a day in my life, but I've been injured a bunch of times. I got all kind of injuries from growing up to from horses, cows, and automobiles and motorcycles, and but I'm all right. Otherwise, my hip is messed up, and I can't walk hardly on my right side. I can't raise that foot up but about an inch off of the floor. But I'm going to make it. The good Lord's going to ride me through, and I thank Him for it. I thank my church and all of the members of the church for the prayers that went out for me when I was in the hospital, and I know the Lord answers prayers. And if you don't believe it, you better start again, because He will answer your prayers. If you got the faith, and you got to have the faith in Him, and I got the faith, and the members of my church, they all got the faith, and every one of them was praying for me, and that's what brought me through. And it's a Saturday night tonight, and I hadn't been to church in over 2 months. And I told Edward, I said, if I can make it in the morning, I want to go to church if you'll take me in a wheelchair.
Yep, I will take you.
So I think he's going to take me, and I appreciate it. And he's been good to me, and I asked the Lord to bless him and bless his family. He's got a handful to take care of. His wife has had a stroke and is paralyzed, and he's got a big job taking care of her. So, and he's taking care of me, so it's a blessing that everything's going our way. And my son, he had done me real dirty. My wife gave him money to buy our home and set it up over on his property and buy 2 acres from him. Give him $5,000 for 2 acres and about $90,000 to get a 3-bedroom trailer, and then got it moved and got it set up and got a big porch on it, got a ramp on it, got a back porch on it, got a storm shelter and a 4-car garage, and it was all set up. And that before I come out of the hospital, they wanted to put me in hostage. Well, my mind is good, and I kept wondering why they kept coming in there and asking me a bunch of questions. And there's one woman, which was a school teacher, she come there and she must have asked me 100 questions. And one day I said, "Lady, I'm not crazy. I know what I'm doing." I said, "I got something to ask you." So I wrote a poem about a few years back before my wife passed away, how heaven will be. And I started to tell her about that, and I said, "I want you to remember the first 4 words that I tell you when I get through." So I started, I said, "When Jesus sends his angels down after me, I can see them coming through the clouds. I can hear the wind whistling through their wings as they come down. Now Jesus said he would come in a blink of an eye. So I pray to the dear Lord that I'll be ready to die. And when the angels get to me, I'll ask them please Take me by Calvary, where my Jesus died for me. And when I get to the cross, I will kneel down and pray and thank the good Lord for saving a sinner like me. Then I'll lean over and kiss the ground where his precious blood was splattered around. Then the angels will take me by the hand and fly me to the promised land. And when we get to the gate, he will open